Welcome to this lecture on Next Generation NClex case study questions. Today, we will be exploring a real-life scenario of a patient who was admitted to the hospital with a severe case of thrombocytopenia. We will be discussing the patient's history, nurse's notes, physician's order, and lab values to understand the process of blood transfusion and the primary goal of the treatment. By the end of this lecture, you will be able to understand the importance of patient identification, blood compatibility, transfusion of blood components, monitoring of vital signs, and laboratory values during blood transfusion. So let's begin by examining the patient's history and nurse's notes. Let's see the patient's history. John Doe, a 45-year-old male, was admitted to the hospital with a history of severe bleeding from an injury. He was diagnosed with a severe case of thrombocytopenia and was in need of immediate blood transfusion. To understand the scenario in depth, let's see what's written on the nurse's notes. Following this are written: assessed the patient's identification band and matched it with the name on the blood sample. Checked the Rh and ABO compatibility of the blood sample before transfusing. Transfused 1 unit of packed red blood cells to increase the erythrocytes for oxygen transportation. Transfused 2 units of platelets to address the thrombocytopenia and improve clotting. Monitored the patient's vital signs during and after the transfusion. Checked the laboratory values for erythrocyte and platelet count after 4 to 6 hours of transfusion. To understand the scenario in depth, let's see Physician's Order tab 2. Following points are mentioned here. First, transfuse 1 unit of packed red blood cells. Transfuse 2 units of platelets. Check laboratory values for erythrocyte and platelet count after 4 to 6 hours. Monitor vital signs during and after transfusion. We need to see the lab values to understand the scenario better. Here, in the given scenario, we are given hemoglobin increased from 8 grams per dl to 9 grams per dl after transfusion. Hematocrit increased from 24% to 27% after transfusion. Platelet count increased from 50,000 to 150,000 after transfusion. Based on all these scenario, history, and lab values, we have the first question to solve for this case study question. What type of blood component is used in cases of thrombocytopenia? A. Packed red blood cells. B. Platelets. C. Fresh frozen plasma. D. Albumin. The answer is B, platelets. The reason is quite obvious. We use platelets in cases of thrombocytopenia.